Going through a divorce is one of the most difficult things some may ever have to experience. While most of us, when we get married, we're excited, we're joyful, we're looking forward to the future, and we're creating long term plans. And then before you know it, some of us are filing for divorce. The truth is, nobody gets married to turn around and get divorced. But research says that there's one divorce happening every 33 seconds. There's 2 to 3 divorces happening in the same time. It takes a couple to say their vows. And so the reality is almost half of us will experience a divorce at some point or another. When I think back through my divorce process, I didn't think about how it would make me feel. I didn't think about the long-term financial, emotional toll it would have on me and my life. I didn't think about the impact it would have on my children. I didn't think about how I would internalize if I was good enough or if I was loved. All I thought about and felt was a desire to get free of it. I wanted the pain to stop. Looking back, there were 5 things that I learned along my journey that I wish I knew at the time of filing. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. The first thing that I wish that I knew that I learned through my divorce journey was that when hurt people hurt you, it has nothing to do with you. So a lot of times when people hurt us or do terrible things with us, it has more to do with the pain and the things that they are dealing with that they project outwardly than it ever has to do with you. And when you learn and understand this truth, then you're less likely to take it personal. You're less likely to operate with the spirit of offense. And you're more likely to show grace. This was one of the hardest things that I had to learn, but through my process of divorcing, I was able to see that a lot of things that happened to me in my marriage or were done to me through my marriage weren't personal. And when I was able to adopt this truth, I was able to let go of the negative thoughts that I believed about myself of being unlovable or unworthy or nobody ever wanting me. This goes to the next step, which is forgiveness. When you are able to understand that people operate from a hurt place because of their own situations and the very own things, the personal things that they're dealing with, then you're also not only are you able to understand that it's not personal, you're able to operate from a spirit of forgiveness. Now, I'd like to preface that with, I understand that forgiveness feels like it's excusing the offense, or forgiveness feels like you're letting the other person off the hook. But as cliche as it sounds, it's true. Forgiveness is for you. You know, there's an old saying that says, unforgiveness is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. And that's exactly the truth. When you are unforgiving towards the other person, towards your ex-spouse, then you're really poisoning yourself because you're staying up late at night and not being able to sleep. You're crying and frustrated and having all these emotional highs and lows. And the other person is able to move forward. When you forgive, you allow yourself to have peace. When you forgive, you allow yourself to let go of the toxic and negative emotions that keep you stuck. When you forgive, you allow yourself permission to move forward without guilt. When you forgive, you're not excusing the offense, but you're understanding and recognizing and acknowledging that we're all human and that we all make mistakes and that we all do things that we're not proud of. The third lesson I learned along the way is that healing takes time. No matter if you wanted the divorce, no matter if the other person wanted the divorce, no matter if it's a mutual agreement, divorce is going to hurt. Because while you are out of a situation that may have been toxic or you may have been unhappy in, you're also letting go of the investment of time, love, and energy that you put in. You're letting go of the dreams, the hopes, and the desires and the plans that you had for the two of you. And so leaving a marriage is painful. And when I speak to clients of mine or potential clients of mine, a lot of them struggle with understanding the process. They think that because the divorce is over, they sign the paper, or they kind of emotionally cut ties, that somehow magically the pain will go away or magically they'll move on. Research says that it can take upwards of 4 years to truly heal from a divorce, and sometimes longer and sometimes sooner. The reality is we cannot rush the process. There's so many things to be learned through your healing journey, but what a lot of people do is they try to cover up their pain. They try to cover up their shame or their embarrassment because they're overwhelmed with grief. And so it's difficult for them to really process those difficult emotions. It's difficult for them to in turn learn how to master those emotions. And then they begin to lead life operating from a place of hurt, operating from a place of bitterness, anger, rage. And so you have to understand that the process takes time and be patient with yourself. There may be times where you're doing really, really well, and then there may be times where you really struggle. This is all understandable and it's a part of the process. But if you rush it, you can miss it. And more importantly, if you rush it, you'll likely sabotage your entire healing process. So, for example, a lot of people will cover it up with alcohol or drugs or things like that, or promiscuity and sex, and just trying to avoid it. Other people can cover it up with things that appear good on the outside, like being busy and keeping themselves away from their home or keeping themselves from thinking about it. And the truth is, when you cover it up, all you're doing is delaying the inevitable. You're delaying the fact that you're eventually going to have to deal with it. And so what likely comes from that is people will likely rush into new relationships, but then they carry that same hurt and those things that they haven't processed into that new relationship. Or then they rush into having sex with random people, but then they're carrying guilt now in addition to all the emotions from the divorce. Or they're staying extremely busy, but then there comes a point where you burn out of busyness and you have to go home, or you have to face the fact that you're alone in your bed, or you have to face the reality. And so you have to allow yourself to feel the emotions and to process the emotions. And I want you guys to know that there is so much wisdom to be found in your wounds. There's so many things that you can learn from the areas that you're wounded. But if you run from it, you'll never have an opportunity to grow and to step into your purpose. So don't run from the pain. Allow yourself to feel it. Be patient with yourself in the process. And most importantly, allow yourself to grow through the process. The next thing that I learned along the process is that nobody wins. This is a big one because I think a lot of times we feel like if we fight really hard and we spend a lot of money, or we expose the person and, their wrongdoings, that somehow people will understand that we're a victim and somehow people will have sympathy for us. And the reality is nobody wins in divorce. Everyone is hurt from divorce. No matter how your ex is behaving, no matter how it is you're feeling, no matter what their families say, no matter how your kids appear to be, nobody wins in divorce. And in fact, there are a lot of people that are hurt by divorce. Not just you, but your children, your family, their family, your ex, friends, mutual friends. And so understanding that nobody wins. And if you let go of this idea to win, whether it's in court or to win, favor with your kids, or to win favor with friends or family member, when you let go of that idea and you understand that it's just a process where everyone is hurting, and the most important thing to focus on is healing and not winning, then you're already setting yourself up for success. Finally, the last lesson, and probably the most impactful lesson I learned, is that broken things can be rebuilt. So I want you to think about it. There's this premise that somehow if you break a glass plate or you break a glass cup and then you try to glue it back together, you glued it back together and it's a similar object, but it's not the same object. And that's how I like to view divorce. While we may have been shattered and our life may not even reflect or give a resemblance of what it used to be, that doesn't mean that it cannot be rebuilt. And while this glass plate or this glass cup can be rebuilt and it may look different, it still can have better outcomes. It still can have a new look and a new opportunity and a new use. And so it's the same thing for our life. Although we may feel broken, although we may feel torn down, although we may feel like we can never be repaired, I am walking truth that broken things can be rebuilt. When I went through my divorce, I was such a broken person. I was so broken. I lacked confidence. I lacked self-esteem. I didn't even really see a purpose for life altogether. And so the idea that I was going to rebuild my life and recreate and re-identify who I was like super far-fetched. But through the process of feeling sorry for myself, I recognized that I needed to stop looking for sympathy and I needed to look for support. And that was the key shift through my divorce process that really allowed me to heal. So when I started to look for that support instead of looking for sympathy, I was able to get a coach that was able to walk me through the process of healing, the process of understanding that I could recreate this life, that I could make my next chapter my best chapter. And so we took the very things that broke me and built upon those to recreate a life that I love, to redefine who I was now as a single, to help me understand that I could build my confidence, I could build my self-esteem, and I could step into my purpose unapologetically. So these very things that I was once embarrassed and ashamed about are the things that I have now an entire career around. I share my testimony with people all over the world through speaking engagements, master classes, books, and online courses to be able to help people understand that they can heal from their hurt and step into their future as well. That our hurt places don't have to keep us stuck, stagnant, bitter, angry, depressed, or resentful or anxious. That our hurt places can be the very things that we can use to transform us, and not only transform us, but to transform other people. And so what I was once embarrassed or ashamed about, or scared to talk about, or scared to admit, or I felt like I was walking around and needed to hide or cover up, is now the thing that I coach other people through. And without this experience, I wouldn't be here. Without my struggles, I never would have stumbled across my strength. And so I want you guys to understand that although you may feel broken, although things don't make sense, although you feel like you're stuck, stagnant, and stranded, that you can rebuild from there. That sometimes, breaking things down is an opportunity for a clean slate to start over again. And most importantly, although you may be embarrassed of this experience, this one experience does not define your life. No one experience defines who we are in totality. Each experience is a chapter in our entire story or in our entire book, but we have an opportunity to reframe that experience. So do you want to stay stuck and stagnant, or do you want to move forward with success? If you're looking for more support on this healing journey and processing through divorce, I have a wonderful freebie that I offer, and I'm going to put it below in the notes, and it's called Surviving Your Split. I share 7 simple steps to survive your split with success. So no longer do you have to be, weighed down with anger and bitterness and resentment, but you're able to move forward and survive the split with success. And more importantly, you're able to move forward and find the happiness, joy, peace, and love that you deserve, and most importantly, that you desire. So check it out below. Make sure you hit like and subscribe if we're not already following each other. And until next time, I will chat with you guys later.